For the audience, are we all visible for you, all of you? A show of hands, yes, visible. Great, thank you very much. It's a tough one for me to host the gems here and my equals, my betters here. And of course, the topic is also very, very difficult, but it's very much in vogue. Very much we've seen in James Bond movies. James Bond gets a martini of his choice, shaken, not stirred, gets an Aston Martin on call. And of course, most of the brands, we are trying our best to ensure that we get a very, very hyper-personalized experience to our consumers and build a brand around it. Every time the user is seeing you online, offline, they are having a conversation with you. So I have also on the panel people who have great personal hobbies. So there are people who are certified BMW drivers, great interest in F1, marathon runner, people specializing in consumer psychology. So I have great gems here sitting with me, and I have the pleasure to moderate this panel. My first question goes to Vipul first. Vipul, I want to ask you this question that from it's a rapid fire kind of a round. My first phase is a rapid fire kind of a round, and I want to ask this question is, what is your personal very good practice that you're building to ensure that the customer retention cohort and from a CAC perspective is doing great? Over to you, Vipul.
Thank you so much. Very good afternoon. I think as an e-commerce vertical, companies have no choice but to focus on customer retention. The cost of consumer acquisition is so high that it's good that we cater to the same customer more frequently. And hence, in my view, a good way to look at it is that we can break the whole thing as a customer journey before he comes onto the portal, while he's on the portal and after the portal. While customer doesn't get to know this, customer interacts with the portal as if he's interacting with a friend. Not I'm saying that, at Nykaa we have been able to do all of it, but I'm looking at what are the best practices which industry holds. I think before customer comes on the portal, it's interesting to kind of preempt him what he needs to buy. His selections, what he has bought last, creating various cohorts and clusters, and then addressing to them specifically, and fantastic mechanisms through notifications or emails or other sorts. When customer is onto the portal, then the responsibility is that are we showing him something which is right for him? So given his past navigation practices, what he has bought, he has not bought, what he has seen, put it in the cart but not bought, bought it at a discount, what point of time, has he bought it, how many weeks prior to an occasion, how many weeks prior to a Diwali, and so on and so forth. So making the journey easier for him onto the portal. And I think the third part, which is that having bought, endorsing to him that he has bought a good merchandise. So telling him that what you bought was
That's wonderful, and very, very uniquely divided into three parts. That's wonderful.
So telling him that what you bought had a consumer rating of 4.3, has been bought by another 2,000 people or 200 people. It's absolutely new collection and so on and so forth. And also then suggesting that if you've bought this, then we will come back to you with more options which will be of similar kind. So the three verticals, and these three verticals, there are various kind of consumers and various kind of actions. So to be able to break the whole consumer canvas into smaller pieces and then acting onto it, I think could be a good way to retain a consumer.
Very good, and the way you've divided it into three phases, and especially the post-purchase phase, is very, very unique. I would want to now move to Pradeep. Pradeep, again, your hobby being you're a very good F1 enthusiast here. And of course, Puma is a very, very iconic brand, and F1 Puma, a lot of relativeness is there. What are you doing to ensure that there is a personalized and there's a retention aspect for the consumer?
Sure. I think just like commenting on your James Bond thing, right? I think the holy grail is that James Bond walks up, he's an undercover agent, and the bartender, without him telling that he wants a shaken, not stirred martini, gives him that, right? I think that's
He's carrying a phone because he's carrying a phone in the pocket.
Yeah. So, I think to Vipul's point, right? CAC is, going through the roof, right? And therefore, our goal is to increase the share that is coming from existing customers. And there is absolutely no doubt about that, that for us to, say make profits and stay profitable, that we have to do that. So I would now break this again into, three parts. I think first and foremost is collecting the data, right? I think various brands are at different stages of that, collecting the right kind of data during the browsing journey, the shopping journey, once they have shopped, etc. Right? To his point, I think that is one thing which we as a brand are focusing on a lot right now. We launched the Puma shopping app last year, so now the experience is more native, and therefore, collecting data is, I would say, a tad bit easier than what it was earlier. The next thing is, of course, you have to make sense of that data and put some science behind it, so that and I'm going to use a very cliched term which everybody is saying, right? Personalize the communication, right? So once you put the science on it and actually do the analysis, you will be able to personalize the communication. And then, of course, the third thing is to actually personalize and send out that communication. And coming to the Formula One example, right? Like when and to who to send that, the Ferrari jersey is getting launched, or the new shoe is getting launched, based on their past behavior. When to send it, season 5 of Drive to Survive launched last Friday. The first race is this weekend, right, of this season. So this is the time to kind of, get to that consumer, right? So I think these are the things that we are working on, or, kind of our best practices. Again, it's not rocket science, to think about it, but it's not easy to do it for sure.
Very true, very true. And I'll not go in sequence, I'll randomly go so that my fellow panelists are on their toes. And of course, this is a rapid fire round, and I am now looking at Dhruv. So Dhruv, again, from a personal hobby perspective, he has been an athlete, a sprint runner, and even follows running even now very, very passionately. So Dhruv, from a Tasva perspective, a relatively newer brand, off to 52 stores and going on to 100 now, if I have my numbers correct. So what's the very, from a retention perspective, what is on your consciousness? Hyper quickly.
Yeah, hi. So we are a new brand, and consumer acquisitions, obviously, it's a given. So we are working on three things right now. The first thing being acting on the feedback which we are getting. So we have a net promoter score for the people who are already purchasing us, and obviously we try to capture the feedback of people who are walking away. I think actioning that immediately, the same day or next day, helps us build and helps tell us what are we doing right or wrong. We might introduce a new category, we might introduce new sizes, we'll have better services across the store. So that's one. I think building a community, and I'll give an example of a different organization, Royal Enfield. So Royal Enfield used to sell bikes, but now they sell a lifestyle.
Correct.
And as soon as they started selling a lifestyle, the sales shot up rapidly.
Correct.
So building communities is the second part. I talked about the feedback of the stores. So these are two major things what we focus on.
Yeah, and the word of mouth it creates is very, because you care for the consumer.
Correct. And reward and recognition of your existing customers.
Great.
Because ultimately they are the people bringing more people to your stores, however much marketing you do it. And we were discussing in our panel earlier, marketing gets you awareness but does not give action to come to your stores. So it's the people who are already your purchasers who will actually vouch for you, and if you retain them, it's the cost of acquisition isn't negligible actually.
Very true, very true. I'll quickly move to Hiral, and again, you are an avid runner. You do at least 6 to 7 kilometers every day, and a 10 kilometer once in a week or once in 10 days for sure.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
So Hiral, just wanted to bring, there is an aspect, and you're taking unlimited to a different level, the format, and there is a north and a south of it from a country division perspective. How are you bringing in the retention cohort, and what are you doing things differently?
So basically, what we do is, first is customer at heart. We follow a policy that before you open the store, you'll have to address the feedback what we got yesterday. So that in the first hour of the store opening, we ensure that all the feedbacks which we've received, we address it, and we ensure that the redressal is there, and we track it. So there's a mechanism to see that what percentage we are. We are at 98% of the feedbacks are resolved between 24 to 48 hours. So that is the level we have already reached in terms of understanding and answering the customer queries. Second, what we do is we understand how the bill flow is happening in the basket, what the customer is buying. So based on the bill analysis, we also, personalize the communication. So we are trying to automate even the catalogs. So we are trying to see that if customer are in a journey buying 4 or 5 products, how do we automate that from an automation perspective, how these catalogs can go to the customer? That these are the 4 products, and based on that, what are the add-on products we can communicate? So through a WhatsApp integration or WhatsApp business, we are trying to automate the cataloging also. And also at the store level, what we are trying to do is we are trying to understand that, okay, your tops and bottoms are selling in a particular store in a ratio. How can we change the layout? Some stores are selling at 30-70, some stores are selling at 40-60. So we are personalizing even the store layout at a kind of a journey level, customer journey level. So we are doing a lot of data mining, data kind of analysis to really personalize the store experience. So from an online perspective, we can also do an integration to Instagram and marketing through a mobile journey. From an offline perspective, how we can personalize in terms of what product he likes and how we can ensure that the layout is also convenient and personalized to that unique customers.
Great, great. Shambhav, you're a certified BMW driver, and driving is your passion. You have a couple of racing cars. We'll come back to that a little later. And again, from a Jade Blue perspective, you are carving a niche for yourself. So what are you doing very specially from a retention perspective, online, offline, both, and from a personalization perspective?
Can I speak my heart? Yeah, I tell you. Okay, so see, retail is so big. Okay, so as we all know, the sector is so big, and after having so much learning, what I have understood till now is simple. It's very simple. That सब अपनी अपनी संभाल लो, अपनी सोच बढ़ा लो, मार्केट में बहुत पैसा है, आपको जैसे आता है वैसे कमा लो. So basically, Jade Blue, being a brick and mortar company, we have 63 stores. I wouldn't say pan-India, but we were a regional player. Now we are on our way to be a national player, having our presence. Apart from Gujarat, we have presence in MP, AP Telangana, Maharashtra and Rajasthan. And the key point, the best things about Jade Blue is, I would say, if there are 3 points, I would say service, availability of the product, and ambience. These are the 3 main factors I would put to retain my customer again and again.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Great. Manoj, I'll come to you. And again, very iconic brand, and being the CEO of Reebok, you want to a little bit talk about how are you using the particular retention cohort to grow the business. Over to you.
See, from Reebok perspective, the thing is we are thinking from a consumers from hello to hug, right? How they become the brand friend. That's very, very important. And how relevant we are to them. Because unless we are not relevant to them, consumer will not come back again.
When you say relevant, just divide this into a little bit cohorts, because you yourself are a runner and a racket player. So how do you?
Yeah, when I'm saying relevant, it comes from the 3 parts. So one is definitely product, right? So because there are various runners, right? So some runners need light shoes, some runners need heavy shoes, support shoe, arc shoe. So how relevant product is with them? Only then they can come again. When you give them a relevant shoe, when you give them relevant fits of the apparels, performance apparel. So that is how it works. So that product stickiness is very, very important. That's one. Second is overall personalization, right? So be it at offline or be it online, right? How you target consumer personally, that gives a lot of advantage, and they come back again because they feel they are being targeted at a right level.
Yeah, the context is there's a conversation going on.
Yes. How we conversate with them is very, very important. And last but not the least is feedback. So when we take feedback when consumer is at store, how they are feeling about store. After purchase, how they are feeling about the product. So I think, and whenever on a personal level, when we have worked on the consumer feedback, that's the biggest asset we have got in last, not in Reebok, but in, previous, whatever we have done in last 24 years. Consumer feedback is very, very important and acting on them.
I would want to ask the same question to Anil Menon, Lulu Group, and you're tackling the retail, the hospitality, and the food part of the Lulu Group business. And being a technocrat, how are you using the technology from the presence in various cities that you have and the unique consumer characteristic to grow the retention cohort? Over to you, Anil.
Thanks, and it's very relevant at this point of time because from Lulu point
Anil,
of
a
view-
little bit up.
Lulu point of view, what's happening is we were largely south-based, Cochin-based, right? And suddenly, in last couple of years, we just moved on the plates, right? Right now, we are in Lucknow, Bangalore, and so as we grow at that point of time, the aspects have changed. While it's in Kochi, I know that my customer and so forth, right? It is like anything like the home player kind of thing. But with Bangalore and Lucknow coming in, the elements have changed. So what we're trying to do is we are trying to get in more and more community-driven aspects to be brought into place here. It's not what I want my customer to do is come visit us, not the online part, but the offline part. Look at the ambience. Look at the Lulu culture which we are bringing in. Look at the assortments which we play on. A 185,000 square feet, flat plate store, come experience it, right? Now, that experience I'm not looking at any points or any of that gimmicks to be played, but largely to show the word of mouth, if you have to say, right? And how do I do that? Because as you said, from a technocrat standpoint of view, it was just playing around in the small plates of, you come, I know you, hi, how are you, and all of that. Now it's moved to a different level of social commerce and others, which is important, right? How do I leverage that? How do I leverage? If you go on Insta or any of the social media, you see Lulu always vibrant out there in terms of community giving out. You have concerts going on. You have a lot of other gimmicks which is in playing around that. The best part for us is, in this whole community part is, we run 2 or 3 channels at one given point of time. One is the mall, the real estate. So we have a set of customers who's coming up, who may be not a retail customer per se, but he is a mall customer. How do I bring in this? So if Tapan is walking in, how do I bring in this feel of, what, hi Tapan, you're coming to my mall, why don't you visit my fashion and look at it? Because I'm not giving out something out of the world, right? But what I'm trying to give up is the experience and talk about the experience. That's what we are doing.
Great. I would move to Basim. Basim, and I'll talk to you more from an Angels and Rocket perspective.
Thanks, Tapan.
A newer brand and very different merchandise, especially from a kid's perspective, very different than what we've been seeing from an Indian brand's perspective. So what are you doing from an LTV perspective? Because the brand stays with you, the consumer stays with you for a while, to personalize and to retain them. Over to you.
Tapan, the right now LTV is something which we cannot derive for India, but the average LTV what we have from UK and Middle East, it's almost close to 6 to 8 years.
Wonderful.
So Angel and Rocket, as I said, it's recently launched in India. We launched in 2019. We bought the brand and we launched the brand in 2020 during AW22. At that point of time, we didn't know where it's going to sell and how it's going to do across India. So the only option for us was to go pan-India. So we took the risk and we launched in various large format stores. We had to do a lot of conviction to the partners. So we were there with all the leading large format stores and the regional LFS channels. And it took almost a year for us to know it's going to sell only in the north and not much in the south. So there was a certain learning which took 1 year. And there are a couple of large format stores. After 1 year, we've been the number 2 brand in those partners. And that's what it is.
That's great. And how do you segment your users because your line is very different and it appeals to a certain mindset, even from the category of 0 to 14 that we're looking at. So how do you...
See, the current education, what we had in selling in different parts, the most of our customers what we have is either a highly educated customer or an NRI customer. So that's the learning what we have right now. So it's just in the initial stage, just born, baby-like. So it's going to take some time, probably another 2-3 years time. We should be having a proper data and how we're going about it.
Great. And it's fantastic to see that you're already there at 100 point of sale.
We are at 100 points of sale
That's
right now.
fantastic. And I wish you luck in your fishing hobby. So he does line fishing and he uses a traditional
I
line.
use a traditional line.
And I'm going from here on to another runner, which is Manan. So
Naman.
Naman, my fault. Naman, my fault. And big fault. We know for a couple of years each other. And
No problem.
so very different experience you're trying to create for the user, and especially for the users who are buying online and offline and in the context. A little bit more if you can talk about that.
Yeah, so I'm Naman, I'm the co-founder of Magic Pin. We do something really interesting. So we drive discovery that leads to commerce for offline retail. We're a hyper-local commerce app which has 1.5 crore users today, and we've been building this for 7 years. Data, technology, personalization plays a very key role in what we are building today. For our users, we are a platform where they come and discover and save. Whenever they go out, we want them to think about Magic Pin, and they can go and save across categories from food to fashion to salon, spa, electronics, pharmacy, across categories. And for our retailers, we partner with them to drive footfall to their stores and lead to final sales conversion. And we work with them in a way that we can finally charge them only when a sales really happens. Now, the interesting thing is what we do, right? Our business is to connect the consumer and the retailer using our data and technology. And how we collect data is actually very interesting. So users send us a huge amount of data on a daily basis. We receive somewhere in the range of 3 to 4 lakh transaction receipts from users, which is aggregated in the backend. And the information that we get is actually very, very powerful and is used to create personalization, Tapan, what you're asking, right? So users send us bills, receipts, SMS information from all of these categories that we partner with. What we are able to do is from there understand the consumption basket of the user. So we understand which retailers they like to spend at, which brands they spend at, how much is the ticket size they spend, what is the basket looking like, what are they consuming when they eat, when they drink, how do they pair things when they're shopping, do they like Indian wear, do they like Western wear? All of that intelligence is known to us from the consumption basket. What we also know is the location. So we also know the work and home location. Typically when you shop offline, you'd shop 2 kilometers from typically where you live and work, right? So we'd have very good intelligence about where you live, where you work, and we'd also know the demographic profile. So we know age, gender, etc. for the users. We combine all of this information and then personalize and target users on the Magic Pin app. So I'll give you some specific examples, right? Let's say shoe lover enters into a mall, and one of our partners is, let's say, Puma. So we tell when the person enters into a mall, we'd say, hey, there's a Puma store here, which has the latest collection of shoes that they've launched, a white shoe sneaker collection they've launched. Now that leads to some of those users then finally clicking and converting and going to the store and doing a transaction. When they do a transaction, they also save on that transaction using Magic Pin, right? So at the moment of truth, we are able to personalize and reach out to the customer with context. Another example could be, let's say,
I'll just stop you there, Naman, because it's a rapid fire round, and I'll take that story in the next round.
Sure.
So fantastic use case, and the way you're bridging the online and offline and the geo presence of the consumer is a fantastic example of growing the retention cohort. I want to go to Ayush now. So Ayush, new startup, but fantastic growth globally. You got 43 million users in India, got 1 million users. So Ayush, how are you looking at the engagement part of it, the retention part of it?
So what we are looking at, like what we are catering first of all is, okay, so what we are catering is validated customers, like shopping customers. So it's just not any customer which is coming to our platform. It's just only the shopping customer, very high quality customer, which we say. So engagement is very necessary for us because this is a validated customer.
So what do you exactly do when you say?
Okay.
It'll be a little bit good to explain the business model to everyone here.
So Softstore is quite new in India. So we have been doing globally, especially in Europe and Russia. And now we have seen that D2C India like is booming, like and marketing boom will come in D2C India like in 2024. So we thought of like coming in India at the very right time. So what we do is we engage customer when you have shopped from any of the e-commerce. So it's like suppose you what you usually do in a e-commerce journey. You go to e-commerce, you choose the product, add it to the cart, you pay for it, and then comes the thank you page. Thank you page is exactly where the customer either closes the window, closes the app. So what we say, just don't go like that. Say like, thank you for the order, your order details, and you have a reward or something like that. You click on that, then you come to our website, it's called shopstore.com, and all the other brands, all the other network partners which we are working with are there with an exclusive offer because you are a shopping customer, a validated customer. And now you can just go click on that, you can go and shop from the partnering website. So what happening here is like we are providing a very high quality customer to other non-competitive brand and like which will give you a very good LTV, which will give brand a very high conversion rate and also very less rate of return. That is a major challenge in e-commerce. The reason is exclusive offer is there and this guy is a shopping customer.
Understood.
Yeah.
So just take one story, Ayush,
Yeah,
which any one story of your brand which like moved the needle a lot for any brand.
So it's a
And then Naman, it's your turn.
so
The
Bombay
second story,
Shaving
which is-
Company is the first partner we onboarded. So what we are providing Bombay Shaving Company is 25% conversion rate. Every 100 customer which we are sending to their platform, 25% is converting on their platform. So it's like a revolutionary, what we say in e-commerce, it's very revolutionary.
Very good.
And looking forward to more brands and acquisitions and more very good case studies. Right now we are just 1.5 months old on being live on the website. And let's see, you'll see shop show everywhere whenever you are buying something on online.
Great. Great. My best wishes for you there. Naman, you were telling a personal brand story that, in the second particular use case, how you
Yeah.
could drive a difference. And my next question theme is going to be around that. I'm not going to go in the same sequence. I'm going to randomly move through a sequence. And anybody who wants to, add on to the story, please feel free. It's a jamming session. We're trying to do our best here. Over to you, Naman.
Yeah. So some of the interesting things we do with brands is understanding, like I said, consumption basket across categories that users have. So we work with large retail apparel brands. One of the large menswear brands that we work with, what we were able to see is that the customers who were purchasing that brand, a menswear brand, it's a 1,000 crore plus brand, they had very high affinity to certain kinds of retailers in supermarket category, certain types of restaurants like McDonald's and KFC, and it varied across cities and it varied even across micro markets or localities. So what we did was that for that menswear brand, because they were very high affinity to, let's say, a McDonald's, right? We reached out to all the customers of McDonald's on our platform and targeted those users and got them to the menswear brand.
Very good.
Right? Finally, what that does is the CTRs on those campaigns are extremely high and the conversion to the store is very high. And then finally, the overall conversion is the success metric that we're looking for.
Fantastic, fantastic, Naman. Vipul, I come to you now because you are deep into the consumer psychology part. What are those couple of ideas and from a practice perspective which you use and which brought a big difference? Anything which you want to talk about?
Sure, thanks. I would like to bring a paradoxical view here on retention. So we talked about technology, we talked about data, we talked about consumer diversion and so on and so forth. I think we missed the part of supply chain. We missed the part that consumer comes to you because he gets what he wants to buy. And if you look at the back-end part of it, which because of the fashion forum, there could be a place of a fast fashion. And I think that in Indian context, not much has happened. Not much has got invested into creating a supply chain which is very agile and constant focus on price-value equation. So I would break it in three parts. One is getting the right product with the right price-value equation, and then communicating about it, that I have this, do you want to buy this? And the third part is be repetitive about it. You would say that, let's say I stand for trust. Let's say for that matter, Nike stand for trust. So what Nike would do is that it will buy every single merchandise, get into their warehouse, check it inward and outward, and then supply. So if Nike stands for trust, then every single time when you buy out of Nike, you will get a merchandise or a beauty item which you can blindly trust. There is no fake. So you have to then deliver, any company would have to then deliver again and again and again and again on the promise which they were starting. So creating a right agile supply chain, communicating about it, and staying true to the proposition through all of these things.
Yes, the key part is tying up the supply chain to the value proposition and the key value or the key identification of the brand like trust. I believe from a logistics, and just to stir the hornet's nest, from a logistics perspective, a lot has been done in the country. We are delivering forward and reverse in more than 26,000 pin codes now. And of course, no better than me, you are hands-on onto it. But still, there is a certain aspect of, when you say experience part, varied experience, and the trust being flowing right from top of the value chain to the end consumer. That's something where we have a scope of improvement. Totally agree to it. Prabdeep, I'll come to you. What's your this one personal brand story which made a big difference?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about brand story. I just wanted to build on one thing, and I'll try to weave in the brand story there. See, I think a lot of us talked about, as he was saying, data, tech, and all. I think only Shambhav, he spoke about. Did I pronounce it right? Your name? Okay. So he spoke about service experience and all, right? No matter what we do with data and getting the right customer personalizing, if the first time experience is not good, the customer is not coming back to you, right? So the goal is like, how do you not only deliver on the promise, but maybe delight the customer? And there are very small things that you can do, right? The unboxing experience could be great.
100%.
Of course, you walk into a mall, that is easier to do with somebody taking care of you personally. But how do you do it on e-commerce, right? So that is one. If you add a brand story inside your box, and where what is that shoe's history, and why it is there, right? I think that makes a big difference. You promise on, let's say, a 3-4 day delivery, you deliver it the next day, right? That will get the customer back to you, right? So I think these are, and I mean, we have of course worked a lot on our supply chain to make sure that we are delivering. Our NDD numbers have doubled from where it was last year and all that. So these are things that are very important, because if you miss the customer there on their first purchase, they are not coming back to you.
It's a great example, and I was talking to Mr. B.S. Nagesh last week in the Retail Association of India. He was giving this example that they were doing this online merchandise, and then the customer was not getting a great experience. So what they started doing is keeping a small packet of perfume in the box. So when you actually open the box, you get that fragrance and you realize, wow. So again, and these are the details like you talked about. You only, when you do hands-on, you experience that. I want to move from here to Dhruv. Dhruv, any particular example, personal, which you want to take here?
Sure. So since we are in Bangalore, let me give an example of the Jayanagar store. Very small story. So one of the potential grooms had come and shopped for his wedding wear in our stores. He got a nice sherwani. This happened a month before before his day had arrived. 5 days before his wedding, we get a call, and he was panicking. Some episode had happened with his attire for the reception attire, which he had not brought from us. But he was insisting that you please show me all the things which you have in your store. So we got on a video call with him. We even got the Master G to take his virtual measurements.
Wow.
We showed him the entire attire. And finally, whatever he liked, we didn't have the size. So building on supply chain, we got it shipped from the warehouse.
Wow.
And when we sent that to his house, we actually sent a nice bouquet of flowers with a mithai,
Wow.
telling him, congratulations on your marriage. He was so moved by that. He invited the entire store team for his reception. And you won't believe, after that, we got at least 25 orders from the same set of people who attended his wedding. So
And
I know.
specifically your category is round of applause. And
So I
your
know
category
he's
is like it's family
he's a
buying.
customer for life.
A customer for life,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this whole buying experience is for the whole family, because it's for a wedding. A lot of time extended families get
And
involved.
so many emotions are involved, right?
100%. Manoj, I want to come to you and take your example of the personalization aspect of.
See, one thing, we did a consumer dipstick, but also, like I said, consumer feedback is very important. So we've spoken with few consumers. One thing we came out is consumer need more options, which is reality, but how you do it. So like I add to Vipul, how you bring the supply chain, how you bring every day, how you can replenish your stores, how you can bring more freshness in the stores. And we did this pilot with few stores, and we have seen, humongous sales increase in those stores.
Wonderful. Any one particular more pointed incident you want to take from or should I come back to you later?
This is the,
This is
I mean,
great, great. Wasim, I want to come to you. What is the one personal story which you did?
We have one personal story. This was with a large format store in North. Being a South-based brand, we didn't have much exposure to North. Most of the team also doesn't have exposure to North. So we launched the brand in that format, and that was during AW21, and our sales were so bad because we didn't have enough winter wear merchandise and the kind of winter wear merchandise what sells in North. So the sales were bad, and the management of the LFS partner, they said it's very difficult to continue. So we said to give it for one more season, time for one more season. We thought about it and we reworked on the merchandise. And autumn 22, when we launched the autumn 22 in those stores, we performed exceptionally well with leading brands like the top international brands. We outperformed them and we've been at number 2. So what it taught us is 2 things. Know what your customer wants and know what your customer doesn't want.
Very good.
So both is important. Knowing both
It's
is very
very
important.
good.
So
Fantastic.
that's a takeaway what we have.
Very good. Shambhav, I want to move to you. And though you talked about the non-online aspect of the service aspect of it, over to you to dwell more on it.
Tapan, there are so many things. I can give so many examples, but I don't recollect any particular one. But being a brick and mortar stores, and my sales employees are so well trained that when they attend a consumer one-to-one, then there's such good rapport with them that probably I'm having more than 600 to 700 employees who are working at the floor, and each of them having at least 70 to 80 personalized number of all the consumers.
Wonderful.
And sometimes they don't even come to the store, and whatever they require, they just call up the guy, and my guy pack the stuff regardless of any brand and send it to his home, and he's so happy wearing it. So this is the relation.
No, this works. Like, I generally buy my frames from a known contact for the past 20 years, and he knows that I wear sheet frames. So whenever a new one comes, and he would generally say, "Okay, the stock is here. I'm keeping one for you. Whenever you're in the city, please."
Exactly. So there are so many examples. The thing is, we have champions and loyal customers, and we have a bunch of them just because of our service and availability of our product is all we need in. Mr. Nagesh has said one thing very rightly at the RAI last week, that availability of the product is the main key to bring your consumer again and again to your store. But the product should be available. Availability is the main thing, and that is something what we have target always.
Yeah, of course. And one more point he added there: clean washrooms, which is
Clean
the number
washrooms,
one aspect of consumers to come back into the stores. If they are not clean washrooms, they don't want to come back to the store. Great point. Hiral, I want to come to you, and if you can add a little bit of your, because it's a new format you've acquired, and the online piece of LimeRoad also, if you can add something there. Over to you.
Right. So let me talk about, actually V-Mart is a North-based company, and obviously they've acquired Unlimited because they want to expand their presence in South. Initially, we faced a lot of challenges because the kind of merchandise assortment, the kind of a fitment of the customer here was not what we wanted. So what we did was we used our online app to show the customers more option, more merchandise. They started at least telling us what they liked. Some people even ordered. We took that learning of that 2-3 months, understood what customers are liking, what they're ordering through online kind of apps, through the V-Mart kind of full portal. And then we changed our assortment. In the SS23, we already changed the assortment, and we are getting almost 25-30% sell-throughs, which earlier was only at 10-12%. So how we took into that deep learning of customers on the floor, what available tools we had, and then how we utilize that to turn around that merchandise in next 3 months is a great story for us to now move forward and get a successful turnover rate.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Anil, from your side, because you are not just various categories of business, you have a bunch of consumer patterns there, and different kind of cities as well. What is your side of the story?
Okay, I'll put it in 3 points, right? The first one is, it was on the news. So we did try to do a sale, and YouTube was flooded with all the photographs, and I was personally there. Almost 150,000 were there in the store at night, 12 at the midnight. Look at the trust and what are they going to get. So the feel, the brand, that plays a larger part out there, right? They know specifically that this brand will deliver this particular promises, as rightly said. That's something which we carry with us for long. The second part of it is the clean washrooms. You walk into at any level in our organization, the first thing what we do is at going to any stores, made Bangalore, Lucknow, wherever it is. First thing is what we go and look at the washrooms. Are they clean? So you know how the store is maintained, right? And the third part is that very recently, and not even recently, it's a continuous experience which is coming up for me right now, is that there is a word of mouth. So I see families coming in, and we do not have to tell them where what is kept. The one who is always visiting takes the others across with them and guides into the store, and that itself shows us the loyalty and the stickiness which they have with the brand, and they know the layout like on back of the mind, right?
Wonderful.
And that's something which you do not largely see in today's world, but that was something which was a great experience which we on a daily basis we experience nowadays.
Great, fantastic. I had the tough job to cover 250 years of consumer experience in a matter of 45 minutes. It's quite a tough job. And it was like putting a mountain in a teacup for me. And I'm sure I've missed more than a couple of points, but anybody who wants to add a few points, please.
Another paradox is that we look at retail largely from a B2C point of view. But there is a very, very large retail which exists into B2B point of view, right? A large part of India, maybe 95% of it. So I had a chance to work with Udan and lead a lifestyle category. And we were catering to about 1.5 lakh retailers at any given month. And we had about 1,000 people who would go to the retailers and say, please buy from Udan. And they will shoo them away. कि मेरे पास तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर है उससे मैं खरीदता हूँ 20 साल से मेरा घर का रिश्ता है and all of that, and then it will not cut through. So we started to then do a Herculean exercise that for about 5 lakh retailers we started to collect data on what is the retail size, owner's name, retail name, which brands they keep, and brands in the sense labels, what is the price points, and what is the product mix. I mean, बच्चों का टी-शर्ट कितना है और ladies ka sari kitna, and so on and so forth. Once you collect all this data, then there is another data which is sitting with us already on how they have been buying. Eventually created an engine which, what we call as FOS, feet on the street, would go to a retailer and just has to play a few things. Because the system will say, आपका last week पे delivery आया, उसके लिए 3,500 रुपया pending है, next one is coming in how many days, and this is what you should keep handy for a payment. This is what you have bought last time, and they are connected more to regions than to brands. Okay, so let's say, Tirupur has a new brand which has come in, you buy t-shirts, so here is a new offer on t-shirts, the portal is going to go on a sale, all of this is running, right? He is just browsing it. So the consumer will, the store owner, or the mom and pop store owner, will spend 3 minutes to look at this and say, okay, now of these things which you have shown me, these 3 things interest me, okay? And then the FOS sit there and places an order on his behalf. So this is also an example that large-scale interventions are happening through, I think, is first gathering the data and then using that data in order to create content which is relevant for that specific guy for that specific day. And then the way these FOS will move is that we will look at what is the frequency at which the retailer is buying. Is he due to buy now? Which means every day morning, the FOS will get a message that your route for today is this and this. You will have to go to this place, and do this. Press this button, and the things will flow. So there is interesting thing which is happening in a B2B space as well.
100%. I had a task to do a similar kind of an exercise, and once you collate this data, there are patterns which come in, which are like number of orders per day, or you get from a route planning perspective, what is the frequency and what could be the number of orders per day the person would be doing, and a lot of financial matrices also come out of that. But fantastic. Anybody wants to add any other point? Shambhav?
I'd like to put some points. This is something what I've learned from the Oberoi group of hotels. After traveling across so many brands, the amount of service I get at Oberoi's, I have never seen it somewhere. I have not felt it anywhere.
Yeah,
it's close to my heart,
they're
I tell you. The thing is, that is the same thing what we are implemented in our company, that customer is God. See, one good customer would bring 100 good customers, and one bad customer, not bad, but one spoiled customer probably would go out and spoil the image of your company. So no matter, never underestimate your customer. Anyone who is walking in, whether he is there for browsing or whether he is there for shopping, but treat everyone equally and pamper their male ego, because the thing is we're into premium menswear, and premium menswear is that is a customer is stepping in, so he know that where I'm going and what is my budget and how I can buy much more many products. So he is not coming just like that. He has studied the history of company. He knows where is he going. So even if he's a fresher, just give them same respect what you're giving to your loyal and champion customers. This is what we have given.
Great, great, Shambhav. I guess we are on top of the hour. I have folks signaling me there. So it's been a great panel. Thank you very much. And if I've missed a few points, apologies. It was very tough to cover your kind of experience and your kind of wide spectrum. So with that, I thank you all, the audience and the panel members. Can we take a few questions from the audience? Anybody from the audience would want to ask a few questions? There's mic kept here, so please raise your hand.
Hi, I'm Vikas. Fantastic session so far. Absolutely loved it. Just wanted to ask one question. So I think a lot of you mentioned as well, right? Other than the product, I think two major things which determine a customer retention or attrition is the experience or the feeling with the brand. Second one is the price point or value what is offered to the customer at that price point. In the past few years, two major trends which have emerged is a lot of these D2C brands have come up, right, because of digitization. And these brands, they claim to fame is that they're closer to the customers relate more to them. And also you have all these marketplaces which have created their own labels, leveraging their own data which they're seeing on the platform. Myntra has its own brands, Udaan has its own brands, Nykaa has its own brands. Now, these two trends, what does this mean to legacy brands? Is this actually a threat in the current scenario, or is the pie too large for this to even start impacting?
Okay, so if I get a question right, you're saying that there are existing set of brands and the new set of brands which are coming in. Those set of brands seems to be more agile and recent and contemporary. Are they threat to the older brands? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's one part on the D2C brands. The other one, if it's specifically talking about value to the customer at a price point, then you have these labels coming in as well, right? Which, again, for the customer, the same kind of a product available at a lower price point gives them an opportunity to move to a different platform.
Okay, so second part is that, okay, so the question, I think, the way I would put this is that what we should ask is that this is the reality. B2C brands are coming in, there are labels which are emerging, the private brand shares in any of the format is increasing, and each of them wants to increase it, okay? Why, what is this? I think couple of things. One, I think as the e-commerce started, and the whole brand system start to go on a discount, customer got confused. Real price hai kya? 30% discount pe, 50% ki 70% discount pe? And am I getting fooled? And I think a lot of brands fall into that folly where customer is not sure. I think there are few brands which have held up to their discounting policies quite good. I think the second thing happened is that the speed at which the industry in fashion is changing is unprecedented. And any company which is very large also finds it difficult to change at that speed. So older brands come with that as a baggage. So there is a might, but that might also comes with the lack of a speed. And in a more democratic situation where there is an instant national reach, आपने product डाला, पूरा हिंदुस्तान एक बार में देख सकता है, right? Obviously, anything which is more efficient, either on price, fashion, value, communication, fit, quality, will get the traction. My sense is that what older brands have started to do is to create massive infrastructure of retail, right? I mean, Tasva for that matter, if you look at the kind of retail they're coming up, incredible. I mean, all of Lulu, fantastic. So the experience in the physical retail is shifting drastically to say, if you want to get that experience, then go to that. But if you want to buy a product, there are other options available. So to me, it looks like that the market is splitting. For experience, you go to retail, and a physical retail, I mean. And for a good quality product which you want to quickly use, you may choose to go to an e-commerce. Is how I see it.
I just want to add a human angle to it. There are generally three buying ways. One is an essential need, second one is an economic need, third one is an emotional need. So, and there are brands catering to all the essential, the economic, and the essential, the emotional need. The aspirational aspect of course, is to be an emotional need, and it could be not related to money. It could be, for example, let's say, a simple example. Let's say my father used to use a Old Spice aftershave, and whenever I smell that, I reminds me of my father. It's an emotional need. Or it could be maybe when I was a kid, I had a Bullet 1979 in my home. So that's an emotional need. So the more and more the brands can relate from a lifetime perspective to a consumer's emotional need, I think so that is here to stay. That's what I feel about. Great. Any other questions? One question from the audience more, or? Okay, folks, great. Okay, there's one question. Okay.
I don't want to ask anything, but I have something to share. I mean, we as a ANR, let me first introduce myself. My name is Anjali, and I'm heading ANR Retail. So I want to share that what ANR have done in New Year for their customers. So in New Year, we were running one small event in the store where our customers are visiting, buyers and non-buyers. They used to come and they have mentioned their wishes for the New Year. So ANR have fulfilled their wishes. So we have one video in our YouTube. So if you give us some time and watch that video.
Okay, we'll,
Yeah.
we'll do that some other time. Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We've been a great audience, been a great panel. Thank you very much.